Donald Trump continues to be one of the most polarizing figures in politics. Beyond the controversies and investigations, what stands out most lately is how frequently he ends up embarrassing himself on the world stage. During a recent Oval Office meeting with Mark Carney, Trump once again faced pushback over a claim he's been repeating for some time, and the exchange didn't go well for him. We'll get into the full story in a moment. Before we dive in, please take a second to like this video, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It really helps support our work. Now, before we get to the moment when Mark Carney firmly corrected Trump, let's start with how Trump began his remarks by criticizing Canada and its auto industry.
Canadians are refusing to go to the U.S. The numbers are down like 23% in the first 7 months of the year. What do you say to Canadians that don't want to go to the U.S. now because of your 51st state talk, because of the trade war, the tariffs?
Yeah, well, I understand that. Look, I understand that, and Americans don't want to buy cars that are made in Canada, you know. I mean, we have the same conflict. So there isn't, it's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but, you know, American people want product here. They want to make it here. Detroit was emptied out and moved to Canada, moved to Mexico, moved to other places, not just Canada. And now they're all moving back, you know, they're moving back. We have, right now, I was just telling Mark, we have 17 trillion, but it's really much higher. That was as of a couple of months ago. We have over $17 trillion being invested now in the United States.
If you work in tourism in places like Maine, Minnesota, Michigan, or Florida, you've probably noticed that fewer Canadians are visiting the United States lately. Donald Trump's comments and behavior on the world stage have done real damage to America's reputation, and it's becoming something people around the world talk about. It's reached a point where many Americans feel embarrassed traveling abroad, unsure of how others might perceive the country under this leadership. There have even been strange stories about travelers being questioned over trivial things, which only adds to the concern about how chaotic things have become. It's a frustrating time to be an American because the perception overseas is shaped by how our leaders act. And right now, that image isn't flattering. You'd think the administration would want to rebuild trust and encourage travel, not alienate close allies like Canada. But instead of promoting goodwill, Trump has been taking unnecessary shots at Canadian industries, even criticizing their cars. It's hard to understand what the strategy is here, especially when these comments don't serve any clear purpose. And when he spoke about competition with China, it became even clearer that his messaging lacked focus or direction.
Sir, on China, what more can the United States and Canada do together to counter China?
Well, you have to be able to compete. They're a great competitor, and Mark and I both know that, and you have to be able to compete. We have big advantages over China for lots of different reasons, and I think we're doing very well with China. I get along very well with President Xi. I'm going to be meeting him in a few weeks, as you know. I'll be meeting him in South Korea, but we've had a very good relationship for a long time. But you have to be able to compete. To do well with China, if you can't compete, you're not going to do well with China. And Canada is very competitive. I can tell you that. Canada is a very competitive country. And I think Canada's done very well over the years with China.
Yeah, we have. But we'll do better together on that.
So what exactly did any of that mean? Can someone explain it? He talks about competing and traveling so much and how everyone knows and likes him. But where's the actual competition? Donald Trump seems confused about who America's allies really are. There's no clear or consistent strategy in how he engages with them, and that confusion shows in his public statements. When he speaks about leaders like Vladimir Putin, he often strikes a friendly tone, saying things like we need to bring him to the table and show kindness. But when he talks about long-standing allies like Canada, France, or the United Kingdom, the tone completely shifts to threats and demands for payment, as if they were adversaries rather than partners. These contradictions reveal a pattern. Trump wants to project strength and toughness, even when it comes at the expense of cooperation with allies. Many analysts argue that this approach has less to do with policy and more to do with image and influence. That's why he made his recent remarks about Canada, and why what happened next became such a moment of public pushback.
Azerbaijan, Armenia, disabling Iran as a force of terror, and now, and I'm running out of time, but this is in many respects the most important, What you created.
of Canada
No,
and the
what
United
you
States.
have created. That wasn't where I was going.
Yeah, your merger isn't happening, Donald. It's never going to. Mark Carney knows exactly how to handle Trump, and whenever he's in the White House or in a meeting with him, he consistently pushes back and shuts him down. It's like he's saying, no, that's not how this works. The first time Carney was in the Oval Office, he made it crystal clear that Canada isn't for sale and won't tolerate being treated that way. That's the kind of directness Mark Carney is known for, showing how leaders can stand their ground with confidence and clarity. But Trump clearly wasn't pleased about being challenged, so he shifted the conversation to topics where he thought he could appear strong and in control, starting, unfortunately, with divisive rhetoric.
We have no men and women's sports. Basic things. We're not going to take your child away and change the sex of your child. We're not going to do things like that. What they're doing to the country is so incredible, and they got away with it with all their woke crap, and now it's stopped. And
Donald Trump seems to be completely losing control of his messaging in public. What exactly is going on with him? Out of nowhere, he starts targeting and spreading false narratives about transgender people, pushing rhetoric that serves no purpose other than to divide. At this point, his behavior appears increasingly erratic, and his public comments often sound disconnected from reality. It's as if he's surrounded by people who simply encourage whatever he says rather than helping him stay focused or constructive. Just listen to this next part of his speech. It says everything about where his mindset is right now.
But I'm getting calls from Democrats wanting to meet. I never even heard their names before, and they're claiming to be leaders. The Democrats have no leader. They remind me of Somalia, okay? And I met the president of Somalia. I told him about the problem he's got. I said, you have somebody from Somalia who's telling us how to run our country. She's from Somalia. He said, would you like to take her back? He said, no, I don't want her. Okay, you know who I'm talking about?
You can see how Donald Trump constantly seeks validation, almost like he's waiting for applause after every statement. He talks about meeting the president of Somalia as if it's something extraordinary, but that's part of the job for any world leader. It's similar to when his team proudly points out how many media outlets cover his events, even though that coverage is simply expected of a president. Trump continues to show signs of insecurity and defensiveness, which seem to be growing more visible by the day, and the polling reflects that decline. If you really want to understand how his weaknesses are catching up to him, just look at his recent legal setbacks, which Rachel Maddow explained in detail.
That same judge in an emergency hearing late last night told the Trump administration in no uncertain terms that they were obviously trying to defy her order, and they were not allowed to do that. And I say no uncertain terms. Now I will show you what I mean. The judge, Mr. Hamilton, let me ask you, how could bringing in federalized National Guard in California not be in direct contravention of the restraining order I issued yesterday? Trump administration lawyer, Mr. Hamilton. The restraining order issued yesterday, paragraph 1 of it, enjoined implementation of Secretary Hegseth's order to the Oregon National Guard. And this is the judge. Mr. Hamilton, you are an officer of the court. Aren't defendants simply circumventing my order, which relies on the conditions in Portland? Nothing has changed. There's nothing in my order that has changed. Trump administration lawyer. No, Your Honor. The judge. So why is this appropriate? Trump administration lawyer. Well, the reason is that the California National Guard were federalized under a different presidential memorandum. The judge, Mr. Hamilton, you are missing the point, because here it's the conditions on the ground in Oregon that were the basis for my finding that there was not a legal basis to bring federalized National Guard into Oregon. Is there any legal authority for federalizing National Guard for one purpose, that is to help California, and then to divert them to another purpose in a different state, where there's no showing that that is military help that is necessary to assist law enforcement or to protect law enforcement or the one federal building here for ICE? Trump administration lawyer. Well, the judge, is there any legal authority for what you are doing? Trump administration lawyer. Well, this section of the U.S. Code, section 12406, has not been utilized any time in history. So there are not many previous precedents from the use of this authority. But the judge, tell me, why do you think it has not been utilized? Trump administration lawyer, I can't speak to that. The judge, Mr. Hamilton. So again, if it were the case that you could federalize National Guard in one place and simply send them to a place where the president doesn't have authority to federalize the National Guard, then what would the purpose of this section of the U.S. Code be? You have to have a colorable claim that Oregon conditions require it, but you don't. We have already gone over that. So why is this appropriate? Trump administration lawyer. Well, again, no additional California guardsmen were federalized. They were instead relocated from California to the state of Oregon. And the judge. So are they federalized or are they not? Trump administration lawyer. They are federalized, but new guardsmen were not federalized. 200 already federalized California guardsmen were relocated to the state of Oregon. The judge. Let me ask you, Mr. Hamilton. You're an officer of the court. Do you believe that this is an appropriate way to deal with my order or an order that a judge issues that you disagree with? Or is the appropriate mechanism to appeal? Trump administration lawyer. Well, I'm not a policymaker, but the judge. You're a lawyer. That's how it's going for the Trump administration in court in trying to send in the troops to Oregon. We'll see how it goes in Illinois, right? I mean, Trump does not seem to have the law on his side on this matter. He does not seem to have the people on his side. He does not seem to have the politics on his side. And so what he has is just force.
I say this often, and it's because it really matters. Donald Trump wants people to believe that he's unstoppable, that he can't lose, can't be held accountable, and will always come out on top no matter what. That's the image he tries to project, but it's simply not true. In reality, Trump is still subject to the law and the limits of democracy. He is not a dictator, and he only gains that kind of power if people start believing he already has it. That's why it's so important not to give up or accept defeat before the fight even begins. He wants the public to feel hopeless, to stop pushing back, and to surrender to that narrative. We can't let that happen. We have to stay engaged, stay strong, and keep challenging misinformation and corruption every single day. That's what we're doing here on this show, and that's what I hope all of you keep doing too. If you want to support that work, hit subscribe, drop a like, and if you made it to the end, leave a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you.